Welcome to the Mind for Life podcast. My name is Dr. Jeff Bogazic, and today I'm going to talk about a topic that I think is super important and critical for a lot of, especially what I would say maybe are younger people. And the topic has to deal with confidence. And I'm putting it in terms of confidence for overthinkers. Now, I understand there are some people who do not lack for confidence. They think of themselves as maybe the greatest thing since sliced bread. They've got no problem getting out there. But I don't think that that is the majority of people. And even people who are arrogant, many times are arrogant in response to a lack of confidence, and it is an overcompensation in an attempt to look the part that they don't necessarily feel internally. And so today I'm going to talk about confidence for overthinkers, and I am going to be referring to this in terms of five, what would I say, generalized groups of people. And so ask yourself if you might fit into one of these areas, and then I'm going to give you some strategies towards the end on how you can develop more confidence and handle these types of situations where you don't feel confident, depending upon which group you may fit in. Now, you may fit into multiple, and that's okay. Ultimately, we're all on a learning journey and a growth journey, and the point of this is to help you and facilitate growth in your own confidence along the way. So, five classifications, you might say, of people who might be susceptible to a lack of confidence or maybe overthinking. And of course, the first one is perfectionists. Perfectionists often get paralyzed and lack confidence because everything isn't exactly the way that they feel it should be. And perfectionism, while on one hand can lead to very high achievement, and it will lead people to do things in detail orient and get things just right. Those type of people usually spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, and get things just right. The challenge with that is it can become paralyzing, and perfectionism can prevent people from actually accomplishing all of the things they could accomplish or moving forward in all of the areas that they could move forward in because they are paralyzed. They tend to overthink. And in overthinking, when things are not perfect, they tend to lack confidence to be able to do the things that they should be able to do because things are not just right. So perfectionists would be the first category of individuals. Number two would be people who are younger or who are new to an organizational role. So when someone comes in and they're new, there is often an accompanying anxiety or fear that people will look down on them because they are new. Of course, when you are new, what? You don't have the experience. You don't know what you're getting into. And I think there's a healthy balance between people who are in that position where they are afraid, they don't want to do anything, they're afraid to contribute, they lack the confidence because they're overthinking the fact that they are the low person on the totem pole or the one that is not bringing into the organization all of the things that they should be able to. On the other side, there's people that come in that are new that just think they are wonderful and that everybody should look at them and think you're great and we should listen to what you have to say. I remember an example when I was in college. Actually, I was teaching some grad courses, and I remember listening to a young girl who was giving a presentation, and her comment was this: I don't know what everybody else is going to do, but when I graduate, I'm going to get a job for $90,000 because I have 2 degrees. And I was sitting there thinking, I don't think you are understanding the reality of the situation. So unfortunately, a lot of kids in school think that because they've got a degree, because they've got a college degree or 2 degrees, and it's from a great institution, that sometimes they're going to get out there and people are just going to hire them on the spot. And again, that may be the case for some people, but it is not often the case for everyone. And so people that get those positions and get those roles start to believe the hype about themselves and or their degree and think that they should just be given the highest privilege, if you want to call it that, or be a default person when it comes to expertise, even though they don't have any, they just have a degree. And so there's a healthy balance between those. But the overconfidence or the lack of confidence, I may say it that, for overthinkers is usually for the people that are coming in that are new, that have some trepidation, have some anxiety, and are not quite sure how to handle that. They feel afraid. And so we will talk about some strategies for those type of people. Number 3 are people who've had negative past experiences. And so when you, in the past, have had bad experiences, there's been conflict or there's been relational turmoil because of something you said or something you did, a mistake, a failure in the past that caused upheaval. Maybe you blew it and missed a projection on whatever your spreadsheet was, and the company lost $150,000 and you were reprimanded because of it and never got the trust again. Whatever those past experiences are, those past experiences, and we might call them in a sense traumas, hold us hostage. And they are things that contribute to a lack of confidence moving into the future. How do you handle that, right? Because along with those failures come a whole host of emotions. And if you have experienced a past trauma or a past failure, you understand the emotions that go along with it. And in fact, when you often go back and remember those situations, I know for myself, when I look back at situations in my own life where maybe I blew it or maybe I did something that contributed to, some chaotic experience, and I go back and relive that, or I remember it, and you know what happens? You relive the emotions. You experience the same emotions just in remembering it. All of the emotions from that experience, all of the anxiety and fear and trepidation and raised heart levels, everything, they all come right back. And it's a unique way that our minds operate in remembering past traumas, the emotions of those past traumas, the feelings. We experience them all over again. And so when you get into a situation in your future where you start to see similar patterns that remind you of a past failure or a past traumatic experience, it causes those emotions to come to the surface, and that then prevents you and paralyzes you and ultimately results in a lack of confidence in yourself as you are moving forward. And so perhaps that's you. You've had negative past experiences that are paralyzing you now and giving you anxiety and fear as you are trying to find confidence moving forward. Number 4, the group, what I would say, are people that overprepare. So there is a level of preparation that we all can make, right? We prepare for something. You're given a presentation, or you have to give a speech, or you have to lead a project or manage a project, and there is a lot of preparation that goes into it. But sometimes over preparation can be paralyzing, in the sense similar to a perfectionist, that we are never going to be completely prepared, right? You can prepare for a lot of things, but you cannot prepare for everything. And you can forecast and try to examine contingencies, but if you are stuck in trying to examine every single possible thing that could or potentially will happen, everything that you want to do, every detail, every sentence, every period, every comma, that is paralyzing. And you many times will think, I haven't prepared enough. and it prevents you from going into that project or that presentation with confidence, because there's always this underlying feeling that you haven't done enough to prepare. And so perhaps you are finding yourself in that group where you overprepare, but just cannot seem to prepare enough. And then the last group of people that lack confidence are people pleasers. These are people that just get caught up in how other people think about them. They do not do things. They have to be concerned with their public image to such an extent that they get the acceptance of other people. And so that prevents them from being confident, because the confidence that we have shouldn't come from what other people think, but really should be internal. Now, granted, when we do things and accomplish things, those things give confidence. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But people who please other people or who live to please other people often lack confidence. And why? Because you will never do enough to please everyone. And if your confidence and your self-esteem and your self-assurance only comes from what other people say about you or what other people think about you rather than from something internally, you will never get there. So what can we do? What can you do to develop greater confidence if you are overthinking and being paralyzed? Let's talk with the perfectionist. And what I'm going to say is all of these things have to do with reframing your perceptions and how you think about things. Perfectionists, and I understand that it is a neurological network. It's a habitual thinking pattern. Perfectionists, everything has to be right. But the reframe has to go from perfect down to great. Okay? Recognizing that great doesn't equal perfect. You can do something and do it great. You can do something and do it very good. And it doesn't have to equal perfect. In fact, some of the greatest pieces of art or pieces of content that are out there are great for the very fact that they are not perfect. There are mistakes. There are errors. And being a perfectionist is wonderful because it really sets a bar for a high level of performance. However, you will never be perfect. Now, that doesn't mean that we should just accept mediocre, right? There is a standard of excellence that we should hold for ourselves, but perfect and excellent are not always the same thing. You can be excellent without being perfect. And so whatever it is you're doing, strive for excellence. Strive for excellence, but be okay with not exactly perfect. And that is a very difficult mental shift to make. If you are a perfectionist, at some point you're going to have to come to the thinking and the understanding that being a perfectionist prevents you from actually accomplishing what you need to accomplish. And people that are perfectionists will spend inordinate amounts of time. And you know what? The reality is this: if you're a perfectionist, it's never perfect. No matter how much you work on it, it will never be perfect, because perfect is unattainable and impossible. And so you have to come to the conclusion and the understanding in your own mind that perfect is impossible. I can get it good, great, excellent, and be confident that I put in my best work, I put in my best effort. And so if you can be confident with excellent, you can get past perfect, because perfect is impossible. It doesn't matter what you do, how much time you spend on it. And there's like you can think of it as a curve. At some point, the effort that you put in and the development and the progress that you've made on whatever it is that you're working on, there comes a point where the return just kind of levels out, and it's a minuscule path upwards. So you can never get it perfect. Understand that. Perfection is an impossibility. Understand that. Excellent is attainable. And so you have to determine when you have reached the level of excellent. And so for perfectionists, that is farther down the road, and it's a difficult thing. But you can still be confident in excellent, and guess what? You can still be confident in good, because most of the other people that are seeing what you're doing are not seeing it through the same lens that you are. They are seeing it through the lens of, boy, this is really great, or boy, that is an excellent presentation, or boy, that was excellent project management, even though it may not be perfect. We tend to see the flaws in whatever we're doing. Other people don't. And so in that sense, perfectionism can be people-pleasing. Number two, if you are new, you're young, you're coming into whatever you're doing, and you are lacking the experience, I'm going to give you two things that I think will help. Number one is bring your best. Give your best effort, okay? Be content with knowing that you are young, you don't know it all, you are on a growth journey, and you talk to anybody who has started from somewhere and got to somewhere else. You come in, you start, you don't know everything. You may know a lot. You may know more than a lot of other people. You don't know everything. So there is what my professor would call an intellectual humility. That's when you come in recognizing, I don't know it all, but I can still bring my best and give my best effort. And when you do that, when you bring your best effort, when you give your best, you will find small wins and small victories compound. And when you have small wins and small victories, and you learn and you grow, and you can view everything from the perspective of a growth journey, that starts to build confidence. I think of the story in the Old Testament of the Bible about David and Goliath. What was it that gave young David the confidence to face the giant? I often think it was the victory over the bear and the victory over the lion, that David was able to slay the bear, that David was able to slay the lion. And those victories, small wins, gave him confidence when it came to having to face a giant. And so for new people, for younger people that are just starting or coming into this, small wins, do your best, right? Think of it. Be David. I'm going to face a bear first before I take on a giant. I'm going to face a lion first before I take on a giant. I'm going to learn. I'm going to grow. I'm going to develop. I'm going to bring my best effort. And ultimately, those little wins and small victories and accomplishments and triumphs propel you to greater confidence to be able to face bigger and bigger challenges down the road. What about if you've had negative past experiences? This one is very difficult because failures in the past, traumas in the past, stick with us. And they, especially when those traumas or failures are accompanied with great emotion. When you have fear, anxiety, stress, what happens is your brain, those experiences get seared into your brain because all of the emotion that comes with those negative past experiences, that makes those things more concrete. It's seared into your memory, and those things carry on with you for a long period of time. And so how do you reframe that? That is very difficult. I'm going to be honest with you. It's difficult to overcome. What I would say this is ask a couple of questions. What can I learn? right? You cannot always go back and correct past failures. You cannot go back and correct past mistakes. What you can do is ask yourself, what can I learn from that? And when I would say one of the principles that I really like is fail forward. Every failure is an opportunity to grow and learn. If nothing more, then learn what not to do or learn what not to say, right? You can learn from the past. What can I learn? Number two, what can I improve? What can I improve? This is what happened, and really take an analytical look at it. You can write down and journal the experience and do a reflective journaling exercise where you say, what happened? What did I do? What can I learn? How can I improve in the future? What can I do different? Looking back with experience, what would I have done different? I look back at experiences in my own life and I go, what would I have done differently now? A lot of things. I wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have made this assumption. I wouldn't have jumped to this conclusion. I would have been more open-minded to different perspectives, different understandings. When I look back at those past things and I go, well, yeah, I didn't do it right. I blew it in those cases. I try to look back at that and reframe those things in terms of every failure is a new opportunity to grow. Every failure is a new opportunity to learn. You can be paralyzed by failure. You can allow those emotions to control you and stop you. You can allow that fear and anxiety, but you have to take the step of courage and have confidence, right? And if you can look at it through the lens of failure is an opportunity to learn, grow, and develop. Failure is an opportunity to learn, grow, and develop. Maybe you need to write that on a piece of paper and stick it on your mirror or stick it on your computer. Failure is an opportunity. That doesn't mean you should be satisfied with failure, right? The point of failure is that you don't fail again, that you grow, learn, develop, and get better so that you don't commit the same mistake. Reframing failure or negative thoughts or past traumas can be difficult, especially if those traumas are significant. In some cases, you need therapy, and I would recommend cognitive behavioral therapy to help you move through some of those traumatic experiences. Sometimes they're very, very difficult to get past, and the help of a therapist can be helpful significantly. Number 4 is people who overprepare. How do you reframe that? Trust your knowledge. Over preparation, and I'm not talking about preparation because there's a difference between preparation, lack of preparation, and over preparation. And there are people that are content and overconfident in their skills to the point where they lack preparation and they get up there and wing it and it doesn't work. Then there is preparation, which is doing the best that you can do, preparing yourself for all contingencies and whatever you can do. And then there's over preparation, where you get paralyzed and stopped from moving forward. So trust your knowledge, prepare, practice, and then recognize this. You're not going to get everything right. You're not going to get everything the way that you prepare. If it's a presentation, you will not say everything the way that you want to say it. Even if you memorize it word for word, the tone's not going to come out the way exactly that you want it to. Your pacing may not come out the way that you want it to see. You will never get everything the way that you want. But be content with excellent, as I mentioned before. Trust your knowledge. And also realize that people love spontaneity. Especially in a presentation, spontaneity really is unique and it is endearing and it draws people in. Over preparation can come out as dry. When you are too practiced, right, there is something in communication. The communication greats were striving for eloquence, right, and we're looking for that. Eloquence in the extemporaneous, communication. That is where you've developed skills enough and practiced them enough that it comes off as natural. And so that's what you are going for. Preparation to the point where what you do comes across as natural and spontaneous and extemporaneous. And so trust your knowledge, put in the work, trust your preparation, but don't get bogged down with over preparation. And then last is people pleasers. What do you value? If you are striving to find your value in what other people think about you, you will never get there. You will become a slave to the opinion of other people, and you will never please everyone. You will strive and strive and strive. And so reframing this is really about, where do you find your own self-worth? Where do you find your own value? If you are not content with who you are, you can develop, you can learn, you can grow, you can put in the work, you can better yourself, but you have to be able to find value in who you are. And that's difficult for a lot of people, because a lot of people just live for other people. So what is important to you? What is your value? And reframe that in terms of what you think of yourself. And I would say this: don't be content with who you are, right? Don't get content with mediocrity. Practice, grow, develop, learn, but don't do what you do for the opinions of others. And you can put yourself out there and put yourself in positions where you have to kind of overcome that. Just to remember that all of these things, I think, take some courageous steps. It takes courage to not be a perfectionist and to be content with excellent. It takes courage to step into situations when you are new or young or inexperienced and give it your best. It takes courage to do that. It takes courage to respond positively and constructively to negative past experiences. That takes courage. It takes courage to trust your knowledge and the preparation that you put in, instead of getting bogged down with over preparation. And it takes courage to step out and be your authentic self without concern for what other people think about you. And so if you're looking to develop your confidence and you fit into one of these 5 groups, hopefully something I said has been helpful to you and you can use it to grow and develop in your own life. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning into this podcast. I appreciate it and hope you have a wonderful day.